Chapter 1 is officially back and will be back for the next 10 months. Alongside that, we have a bunch of new trios we need to discuss, so let's get into everything that happened this week. Start off with the biggest news possible and probably the most controversial news that we've had this week. Fortnite OG is making a permanent return to Fortnite in December. Now, what does this exactly mean? Because we're literally in Chapter 2 right now. Now, Fortnite OG will return with all Chapter 1 seasons, meaning Season 1 to Season 10, coming back every single month. Now, this is going to start in December, probably simultaneously during Chapter 6, and it will have all the original game mode stuff that you will love, such as the OG loot pool, and it will support both builds and zero build. Now, this officially will be announced in the future at the finale and the game awards coming soon, and this is all verified, incredibly sourced from Hypex and Sheena on Twitter. Now, what exactly does this mean? Does this mean that OG Chapter 1 is basically going to be the new Fortnite? Is that going to be Chapter 6? No, as far as we know, we don't actually have much clarification about what exactly this is, but it does seem likely that more than likely this game mode is a separate game mode akin to Chapter 2. It's not going to be a game mode that, it's not going to be the main game mode. It's not going to be the thing that you're going to be running into in Chapter 6. Apparently that's going to be a different type of season. So it's going to be another separate game mode in the overall metaverse of Fortnite. Now, is this actually a good thing for the game? I'm not fully sure, because if you really think about it, if we're going into Chapter 6, then we're going to have the main Chapter 6 map, we're going to have reload map 1, reload map number 2, probably a reload map number 3 in there somewhere, and then an OG Fortnite game mode amongst other things, and then split between builds and zero builds together. Now, obviously, OG Fortnite has been the tool that Epic has used to pretty much bring back the playbase every single time again. Obviously, varying results. This season itself wasn't as successful as the first OG Chapter 1. Obviously, OG Chapter 1 had a peak of 6.2 million players, whereas Remix OG Chapter 2 had a peak of 4.6 million players, so slightly less successful. Now, one of the things that does worry me about this sort of change is that longevity of this game. If we're forcing a lot of people to play OG Chapter 1 again, starting in December, and it's going to be a continuous game mode as a side mode for the next 10 months, well, whenever we have a new event or a new season, a lot of those players, but we probably won't care about that in the long term of this game. When we have had this OG Chapter thing coming back to revive the game, those people, those nostalgia players won't actually be that interested, which means that overall player numbers may suffer. Now, there's a reason a lot of these people left the game. Just bringing back OG Chapter 1 might not be a good enough reason for them to stay. We want them to be interested in the new seasons. We want them to sort of envelop themselves into the new seasons and get with the current playbase rather than being stuck in the nostalgia. Now, obviously, the short-term gain is going to be massive. A lot of people are going to be hopping onto the game, but I do worry about the long-term overall impact of having OG as a continuous game mode versus a one-time wonder every single year, which is small, exciting, and doesn't get stale for those players that are making a turn every single year. This, of course, if the player base then stays stagnant or doesn't actually go up that much, could have an effect on like future collaborations, sponsorships that Epic does, and overall pricing and price pool and competitive at the end of the day as well. So I'm a little bit worried about this choice, but at the same time, we will see what will happen and what the actual result of this overall change is. Now, this does align with a lot of the things that was actually leaked a long time ago by a person called Egyptian Fortnite Leaker, considering a lot of the game modes. Now, we had different game modes, like OG related game modes available in build and zero, but that was codenamed Figment. That does sound like that is the OG Chapter 1 game mode that they were preparing right now. We have Light Bunny, which is a mini BO with a maximum of 50 players, only available in solos. Seems like that's reload game mode. Pharaoh is a 5v5 core game mode, so that's another game mode that they're potentially adding to the game. You have Lego game modes, you have different Battle Royale game modes that's not related to Rocket Racing. You have another LTM game mode, an open world game mode. So Fortnite's definitely becoming the Roblox of the new age. It's the Fortnite metaverse. Whether or not that's the right decision, obviously with creative being a whole separate game mode now, is a little bit interesting, and it remains to be seen. As a battle enjoyer myself, I don't see the vision for that, but I guess if it brings the players in, it doesn't does cultivate revenue and gets some skin sales and stuff like that. So maybe that is the future of this game, but very much unsure about it for me personally. Moving on to the trio news, and of course this was a big one this week. Pollo, Bolt, and Peterbot are back at it again. The OG boys are back to dominate once more. Obviously, Bolt has an absolutely incredible run this past few weeks in trio cash cups, in duo cash. He's been winning everything with Brother Rapid, but obviously he has now been dropped, and Bolt has joined Peterbot and Pollo together, and they're now the God trio and in an A, which means that, you know, now Booga is also out of the picture. And we all know about the Booga drama a few weeks ago, and what does that mean for Booga? Well, Booga is now also with a new trio. He is playing with Aviv and Reet, and you can only assume where they are landing. They are landing right on top of Peterbot's head. They are landing the dog pound. The Peterbot, Pollo, and Bolt are landing dog pound. Obviously, that mythic drum gun is going to be there. Booga, Aviv, Reet are also landing there, and they have played scrims together already this week, and it wasn't very good for Booga. Apparently, the overall score so far in terms of overall spawn fights is an overwhelming 8-0 in the hands of Peterbot, Pollo, and Bolt. Now, obviously, Booga played a few of them with a bit of field trios, but overall, the scores ain't looking too good, and maybe the Booga threats here haven't actually met up to expectations if they decided to snake him. So it's looking good for this new trio. If I'm looking at this trio, Pollo, Bolt, and Peterbot, Peterbot's done the smartest thing possible. He's taken the other best trio in an A, broken them up, made them for himself, and now there's not a second best trio in an A anymore. I personally can't think of another trio right now that's even close to this trio in terms of domination they'll probably end up doing. One of the worries that I had initially was the fact that it was a full fragging trio and they were kind of relying on W keying, but with Pollo there as a support player, Bolt as the fragger, and Peterbot again taking over the tarping, dropping that ego, no longer being a kill player or a damage player, but being the tarper, being the IGL, it does mean for very good things for them, but it doesn't mean that good things for the rest of North America, because who the hell is going to beat them? I saw some rumors about Cold Aegis playing together. Doesn't seem like the best trio either. Canada's got some different options, but again, doesn't seem to hold a candle to Pollo, Bolt, and Peterbot. So I think NA is in for a wild ride, and if this is the year that Peterbot wants to win 3 out of 3 FNCSs, this does seem like the trio to do it, but we'll see depending on the meta. Another trio that got together is Muzz, Rapid, and Clicks. Obviously, Rapid got dropped by Pollo and Bolt, and now he's gone over to play with Clicks and Muzz. Now, this does concern me slightly, considering Rapid's current form and his past form in the past few weeks has been insane, meaning that his options are wide open. So immediately sticking with Clicks and Muzz could be very interesting or very scary for Muzz and Clicks, because I feel like if he gets better options, there's a very high likelihood of some sort of snaking going on. But Clicks has made a choice to potentially not even stream tournaments in the future. He's that committed to winning here with Rapid. He knows the opportunity that he has in front of him, so he's potentially not streaming tournaments. He's going to maybe stream with 10-minute delay. The choices are endless here for Click, so he's very motivated to do well with this trio, and I only hope that it sticks together for long enough, because obviously this is OG season. We have 6 trio cash cups this season. Any trio cash cup duds for any of these trios I just mentioned, and we might have another snakening. You know, it all begins with one player most of the time, so it remains to be seen how well that trio can do, but the fact that Clicks is that dedicated for it does give me some hope, and hopefully, you know, we'll have another trio in Nay that can potentially battle Pollo, Bolt, and Peterbot. Moving over to the EU side, Queasy, Venom, and Pixie have also split. Obviously, this trio did very poorly in the past few weeks of trio cash cups. Didn't really make too much money in the trio cash cups. Didn't really qualify to too many of them either. So they have now completely split, which made a lot of sense because it's just not working out, even though the trio does, in theory, make a lot of sense. The new trio, though, is Queasy, Chicho, and Tino that have come together. So Queasy going back to his Balkan roots. He obviously won an FNCS with Jerky and Trulex back in the day. Now he's playing with Chicho and Tini. A lot more of an aggressive type of trio playstyle. He was in my chat the other day and talked about wanting to play height and jumping in boxes. So Chicho and Tini, definitely the type of fraggers that you need to jump in box. So it does So it is very interesting to see like how their playstyle is going to do, because obviously Crazy, Venom, Pixie struggled. Cheech and Teeny also struggled when it came to making it out of opens. I think they only made one finals lobby in the past Trio Cash Cups, and that was top 198 to qualify for them. Now that Trio Cash is up top 33, and they have a different type of playstyle, it does remain to be seen how well they'll do in the open portion of the formats compared to the finals. And because of that split, we also have another new trio, which is Vico, Veno, and Flixie. Chap has now been dropped on his head, and he is now looking for a trio with Pixie as well. So Veno, Vico, and Flixie are now playing together in the landing Sweaty Sands. Now this one's very controversial because this trio has some issues potentially. Obviously Vico, I think, said a lot of the times he doesn't want to go back to speaking English in the trio. Veno obviously had some past apparently with Flixie, some tweets, probably not that deep overall, but it does seem like Vico, Veno, and Flixie is the right choice for me personally, because Veno is going to be that consistent player. He's not going to be a player that's going to make mistakes. Veno is less likely of a person to make a mistake compared to Chap, for example, and they also need a secondary Tarper / IGL in that trio that can take over when things get necessary. Flixie can't be doing everything in terms of topping duties, and having 3 fraggers or 3 hothead fraggers isn't always the best idea. So having Veno in there that could potentially put a little bit of calamity and a little bit of structure into the trio might be an overall good thing, and it's probably the most exciting trio I've seen so far. And the success of Vico and Veno in the Eval Cup so far does say good things about the future potentially of this trio, but there's so much competition in EU, so it does remain to be seen where these two new trios stand up against the Swizzy Mustaches of the world and the Cami trios and all the rest of them in EU. They're looking very, very strong. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't already, subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Goodbye.